ISIS has released new pictures showing destruction in the ancient city of Palmyra in Syria.
The photos show the terror group blowing up a temple within the UNESCO World Heritage Site. State Department correspondent Margaret Brennan joins us now. Margaret, thanks so much for being here.
Sure.
So this is not the first artifact that they have destroyed. What's the significance of this, though?
Well, this is a 2,000-year-old temple in a centuries-old city known as Palmyra, or Tadmor locally. And it's really one of those artifacts from the crossroads of civilization. I mean, this predates the dawning of Islam. And this is partly why ISIS claims it wants to destroy it and destroy what they see as sort of pagan temples and artifacts that are left over. But the thing that's a little bit contradictory here is they've had absolutely no problem selling on the black market a lot of these artifacts. It's actually become an increasingly important funding source for them as the U.S. and others have made it harder and harder to sell oil onto the international markets. And people at the State Department, at Customs Control, say they've been trying to red light. These are the artifacts to look for. Don't let these cross the border. It is incredibly hard to do so, and it is providing a lot of funding for ISIS.
That was going to be
ancient Arch of Palmyra, which was destroyed by ISIS, will be recreated in Trafalgar Square and Times Square using the world's largest 3D printer. Times Square, why, that is most interesting. The 2,000-year-old arch of an ancient site destroyed by ISIS is to be recreated in Trafalgar Square and Times Square as a call to action over the militants' destruction of antiquities. The famous arch is all that remains of the Temple of Baal in Syria, which was reduced to rubble by ISIS militants in August, who murdered its curator and packed the site with explosives. But the 15-meter arch, which many fear will soon be destroyed, is to be recreated in London and New York, using the world's largest 3D printer. The project is funded by the Institute of Digital Archaeology, IDA, who say it is a call to action, to draw attention to what is happening in Syria, Iraq, and now Libya. IDA Executive Director Roger Michel said, "We are saying to them, if you destroy something, we can rebuild it again. The symbolic value of these sites is enormous. We are restoring dignity to people." The terrorists went on to destroy the nearby Temple of Baal Shaman in the complex and then blew up the larger Temple of Baal days later at the end of August. The whole of Palmyra, including the 4 cemeteries outside the walls of the ancient city, has been listed as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO since 1980. UNESCO, the UN Heritage Agency, has called the destruction an intolerable crime against civilization. Before the destruction, it was visited by around 1,500 tourists every year. ISIS has also destroyed a number of other historic sites in neighboring Iraq as it tries to erase pre-Islamic history because the group condemns the worship of idolatry. However, the IDA, based at Oxford and Harvard universities and with an advisory board, is undertaking a project to capture 1 million 3D images of the world's most endangered sites so they could be recreated if destroyed. I will leave a link in the description box. Thanks for watching and God bless you all.
Good evening, this is Rosie reporting from Beyond the Veil Alternative News. It's 11:08 p.m., 9/3/2016 on a Saturday, almost Sunday, another hour or so. This report is coming out of charismanews.com, and I'm going to start a little ways down because I want to make sure I have time to cover. It's talking about the triumphal arch, a symbol of resilience in the face of loss, will be a fitting tribute to America's great metropolis. The arch will stand in Manhattan, surrounded by buildings adorned with classical features suggesting the common cultural roots of East and West. We hope that you will visit us this fall to consider the relationship between people and the places they inhabit. Their website also features a public letter from their executive director, which confirms that September 19 is the date this arch will go up. You can read the public letter for yourself right here. Now, if you recall, we did reports back in the spring, I believe it was, probably April, somewhere around there. And it was not a replica of the Arch of Palmyra, I don't believe. It was called the Arch of Triumph. And so you see here the triumphal arch, the name, that they're talking about. And so I'm going to go show you that letter in just a moment. It says, you can read the public letter for yourself here. So we have it directly from the source that September 19 is its official date when the arch will be unveiled. I find it very interesting that one of the reasons why New York was picked was to remind visitors of the indomitable human capacity to rebuild what's been lost, referring to 9/11. And in his book, The Harbinger, Jonathan Cahn has pointed out all of the parallels between America's bold pronouncements to rebuild in the aftermath of 9/11 and Israel's defiant statements as recorded in Isaiah 9:10. The bricks are fallen down, but we will build the hewn stones. The sycamores are cut down, but we will replace them with cedars. When a reproduction of the Arch of Triumph was put up in Trafalgar Square back in April, it was also described by a major British news source as an act of defiance. A monumental recreation of the destroyed Arch of Triumph in Palmyra, Syria has been unveiled in London's Trafalgar Square. The 18-year-old arch was destroyed by Islamic State militants last October, and the 6-meter or 20-foot model made in Italy from Egyptian marble is intended as an act of defiance to show that restoration of the ancient site is possible if the will is there. Many people have never heard of the Arch of Triumph, but it is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site. UNESCO is connected to the United Nations. So Wikipedia says the monumental arch, also called the Arch of Triumph, or the Arch of Septimus Severus, was a Roman ornamental archway in Palmyra, Syria. It was built in the 3rd century during the reign of Emperor Septimus Severus. Its ruins later became one of the main attractions of Palmyra until it was destroyed by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant in October 2015. Most of its stonework still survives, and there are plans to rebuild it using anastylosis. I want to stress that this is not the same arch that once stood directly in front of the Temple of Baal in Palmyra, but according to Wikipedia, it did connect the Temple of Baal with the Street of the Colonnade. The monumental arch was built sometime during the reign of Emperor Septimus Severus, which lasted from 193 to 11 AD. It linked the main street of the Colonnade and the Temple of Baal. The arch was meant to integrate the southern and central parts of the Colonnade, as its location marks a change of 30 degrees in the orientation of the street. According to some sources, the structure was built as a triumphal arch to commemorate the Romans' victories over the Parthians. Once again, I think there's something important that I need to point out. The Romans constructed this arch after a victory over Parthia, and in his extraordinary book on the Parthians, Stephen M. Collins has shown that the Parthian Empire was largely made up of people that came from the northern tribes of Israel. So the original purpose of this arch was to celebrate victory over Israel. Is that really something that we want to put up in New York? And even though this arch did not stand directly in front of the Temple of Baal in Syria, it was part of the overall complex. In a previous article, I pointed out that the similarities between the child sacrifice that would be done in honor to Baal in the ancient times and what is taking place in America today. This is what Jeremiah 19:4-6 says. Because they have forsaken me and have profaned this place by making offerings in it to other gods, whom neither they, neither their fathers, nor the kings of Judah have known, and have filled this place with the blood of the innocent, and have built the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings to Baal, which I did not command or decree, nor did it come into my mind. Therefore surely the days are coming, says the Lord, when this place shall no more be called Topheth, or the valley of Ben Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter. Needless to say, we have killed far more of our own sons and daughters than the Baal worshippers of the ancient world ever did. Since Roe versus Wade was decided in 1973, more than 58 million children have been murdered in this country. Another parallel between ancient Baal worship and what is going on in America today is the public exhibition of sexual acts. What sacrifices to Baal were being conducted there would be wild bisexual orgies around the altars, and often large numbers of people would gather to watch. Just yesterday I wrote about the crazy sexual shenanigans that are going on at Burning Man right now, and we have become a nation that is absolutely addicted with watching other people have sex. According to one study that is regularly quoted by Charisma News, an astounding 68% of all Christian men watch pornography on a regular basis. So it sometimes seems appropriate that this arch is going up in the heart of our most important city. We have so much in common with the ancient pagan world, and so it makes sense that we would want to celebrate their culture. Unless something drastically changes at the last minute, this arch is going to be put up in New York City on September 19. Unfortunately, New Yorkers are not going to have any idea what the real story behind it is. Michael Snyder is the founder and publisher of The End of the American Dream. Michael's controversial new book about Bible prophecy entitled The Rapture Verdict is available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. So that must be the author of this piece. So there you have it, some of the background behind it. And it's going to be erected the 19th of September in Manhattan, according to this report. And so let's go over here and look and see what they have to say. It says, with many fond memories of our warm reception in London, we are now preparing to bring our reconstruction of Palmyra's triumphal arch to New York City on September 19th. Like London, the spirit of New York City is reflected in its architecture, its soaring skyscrapers, a product of both audacious design and human courage, mirror the indefatigable and so quintessentially American character of the city. As Salvador Dali said, New York, you erect pyramids of democracy with the vertical organ pipes of your skyscrapers all meeting at the point of infinity of liberty. Sadly, also like London, New York has known loss of life and destruction of familiar landmarks through violence. However, both cities arose again, a testament to the strength and optimism of the people. It is our hope that the arch itself, an icon of destruction and rebirth, will remind visitors of both the university of suffering and the indomitable human capacity to rebuild what has been lost. So, when you think about the history of this having to do with the Roman Empire, and the fact that when I reported on the Brexit by Britain from the European Union, and the fact that it was voted on but it was never really ratified by the Parliament, but they were moving on and causing things to happen in that area as if it had been ratified, just like what Obama did with the TPP. It all connects and it all comes together in one central theme about the setting up of the New World Order and preparing for Antichrist. And so it's interesting that this crops up again. And of course, I believe in that last report that we did back in the spring that it did say that it would be in New York in September. And we didn't have much more information on it than that. So what I want to mention about that is this. Go back here and look at the part where it says that it represents something dying out and something else being rebirthed. Right here where it says, however, both cities rose again, a testament to the strength and optimism of the people. It's our hope that the arch itself, an icon of destruction and rebirth, will remind visitors of both the universality of suffering and the indomitable human capacity to rebuild what's been lost. In reference to September, I would assume, but I think that the underlying thing about this is the fact that America has, for the last at least 8 years and maybe the last 20 years or more, been taken down incrementally by people who were in high places that wanted to support the New World Order and that wanted to, and did, like Obama, did get other people to agree to things like the TPP and different trade pacts. He just recently got China to agree to the Paris Accord, which basically gives the United Nations and eventually connects with Rome the ability to dictate to people what they're going to do in order to make the earth how it was again and so on. I don't think that their plan is going to work. I think it's gone too far for that to really work, but I think that their plan will work in what they want, in as much as it is to gain control globally and to not necessarily visibly do away with the sovereignty and the constitutions of other nations, but to sidestep them by bigger, more powerful laws that have been, and rules and regulations that have been written through Rome, through the United Nations, and through many global acts and even sovereign acts of sovereign nations, but those acts have involved people on a global level. So that's what we see coming together right now. And as they move forward to bring down the superpowers as we knew them in recent years, there will be, like I explained, that rising up of the phoenix out of the ashes of what's left of what used to be. And that's how the New World Order will be completely, totally implemented. They hope to do that through Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and Vision 2050, but they hope to have it implemented, I think, on a pretty grand scale soon. And Obama was put in there to make this happen before he leaves office. That is why he's been in such a frenzy to get it done, and indeed to write so many executive orders and to order the super mega computer for global data purposes. He's agreed with Rome and the Vatican to share intelligence from the United States and around the world with the Vatican as well. So we can see those steps coming together. We can see that phoenix, so to speak, just about ready to really completely rise up and take over where things used to be different. So this is Rosie. That's all I really have. I wanted to remind you that this was happening in September, and that it is symbolic of a great change that's coming about. Some people call it a shift, and we see even the earth acting violent in response to it, to sin, to drastic changes, to things that are not God's will. And so that's why he said to come out from among them and not be a part of the beast system. And I just wanted to remind you of this is one of the things that will be happening during the month of September. So this is Rosie. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the vid. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so.
This is a call for an uprising. We welcome you to today's show and ask those of you who have not subscribed to please subscribe to our YouTube channel as we continue to expose the satanic Illuminati agenda and the ushering in of the Antichrist. Today's show, this is a topic that has been debated. I discussed it many times on this channel. That is the Ark of Triumph. The Ark of Triumph, which is connected to the Temple of Baal, which ended up going up in London for a period of time and was supposed to come to New York City. Then it never ended up coming. It is officially coming to New York City on September the 19th. This has been confirmed from various news sources out there that this Ark of Triumph, this satanic ark, which was connected to the Temple of Baal, will now be erected in New York City, in Times Square. There is a connection between this Ark of Triumph and the Temple of Baal. This is all about satanic worship. And the organization that is behind this effort is the Institute for Digital Archaeology. They're extremely excited about all this stuff as they've made an official announcement about it on their website. They say there are few cities in the world as much defined by their architecture as New York. The Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty, the Brooklyn Bridge, all symbols of the audacity, strength, technical prowess, diversity, and optimism of what Ezra Pound called the most beautiful city in the world. It is also a city that has known terrible loss. First and foremost, the loss of life, but also the loss of familiar landmarks that helped inform the city's identity. The triumphal ark, a symbol of resilience in the face of loss, will be a fitting tribute to America's great metropolis. The Ark will stand in Manhattan, surrounded by buildings adorned with classical features suggesting the common cultural roots of East and West. We hope that you'll visit us this fall to consider the relationship between people and the places they inhabit. So they're thrilled about bringing this satanic arch to New York City. Probably some major rituals will be performed while it's here in New York City on September 19th. Now keep in mind, this arch, which is obviously a replica of the real arch, but nonetheless, this arch was a link. It was connected to the Temple of Baal. So this is what we're getting in Times Square. We can't read Bibles out in public. We can't have the 10 Commandments in front of a courthouse. All these things that Christians aren't allowed to do, but it's not a problem for them to put up their arch in the middle of Times Square, where people will go, well, it's a part of history. It's a part of culture. Ah, yes. Let's go stare at this thing. Yes, it is a link between the Temple of Baal. This was there. This ark was right next to it. They were pretty much connected to it. They're trying to go, well, it's not the Temple of Baal that we're erecting here. It's just this arch. Yeah, but it is connected in history to Baal worship. But, don't put the two, don't put one and one together. Don't use any common sense. And then somebody will go, well, wait, what's Baal? What's Baal worship? Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That's just, back when people were committing human sacrifice, they were sacrificing their children to Baal. Oh, they were? Yeah, people were actually murdering babies, performing rituals on them and sacrificing them to Baal. Oh, okay. Wait. Oh, okay. Huh. It's still going on now. This is still what occurs. This is still what the Satanists do. Now they have their satanic archway that is going to be in Times Square, which is an absolute abomination. It really is. People talk about religious freedom. There's no such thing as religious freedom in the United States of America anymore. It's everybody else's religious freedom except for Christianity, because Christians will speak out against this and they'll say, listen, this thing really represents Baal worship, okay? Let's cut the crap. Let's get to the point here of why it's here, okay? Because this country is open to everyone's religion and all of these things that everybody else could do. We have men crapping in the women's room, all this stuff. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want, except if you're a Christian. And oh, by the way, we're going to put this arch up that represents the human sacrifice that was done to Baal, the children who were murdered and ritually killed. Oh, no big deal. Go enjoy it, folks. Get your iPhones out. Take photos of it. Have a good time. They'll be performing rituals in front of this thing. I mean, this is just ridiculous. I mean, I'm pretty sure we all knew, when they originally said it was going to be canceled, that there was a bit of, people were talking about it, getting angry about it, saying stuff about it, and they elected not to bring it there then. But obviously, it wasn't because a lot of us were speaking out against it. They obviously had a plan where they want it there in September, okay? We know, obviously, September 11th, it'll be there around that time. It'll probably be there on September 11th, but it'll probably be still underground. They'll use, do rituals with it, but it'll be revealed to the public on the 19th. And instead of people going, what does it represent? What is this about? They'll go, oh, shut up, Christians. Shut up. Nobody wants, everyone's sick of hearing you guys complain about everything. Tell me more. Oh, well, it's an architect. It's just genius, isn't it? Ooh, I love the architecture. Ooh, tell me more about it. No, don't tell everybody about the connection to Baal. Don't tell them about Baal worship, especially these people who don't know anything about the Bible. Hopefully people out there who know of the Bible are going to be angry about this because they're going to put one and one together and they're going to say, wait a minute, you're talking about when they were sacrificing babies to Baal? Yeah, and it's going up in Times Square. That's not offensive. That's not disgusting and disgraceful. And it couldn't be more obvious why it's going up. Because this is what they do. This is still who they worship. Baal worship's still going on. These human sacrifices of children are still going on. They're called abortion clinics. That's what they're called. That's why these Satanists are so protective of the abortion clinics. And that's why they go out of their way to stand outside the abortion clinics and make a mockery of Christians, because they want to make sure that they still get their sacrifices, because those children who are aborted, who they go, well, they're not really alive. Oh, but a plant's alive, but the babies aren't alive. But they believe like plants and trees are more important than an actual breathing baby inside of a woman's body, because they want the sacrifice. And if people could just put one and one together, this should be something that should start waking people up. Because they should say, what is the Ark of Triumph? Okay, the Ark of Triumph, which was, erected by the Romans, was actually a link. It was actually connected to the Temple of Baal. Oh, okay. Okay, so what does that mean? What's the Temple of Baal? Oh, that's where they perform ritual sacrifice of children. That's where they these people who worship Baal sacrifice their children to Baal. So why would this need to be in New York City? Why would this thing even need to be erected? Why do we need a replica of this in the United States of America? Well, we know why. The ones who are awake, we know exactly why they want it here. We don't know what they have planned. We don't know what rituals they have planned. We know they're going on. And we know that's why it's here. But still, people will get shut up about it. People will try to shut us up. They'll say, oh, these Christians, everything's got to be their way. Everything, because that's how they portray us in the media. And this will be allowed to go on. And idiots will go up to this thing and they'll take pictures of it. And they'll ooh and they'll ah. Oh, man, somebody made this. What a beautiful sight. Oh, it fits in with the architect of New York, the architectural beauty of New York City, huh? Doesn't it, honey? Huh? Fits in with sacrificing babies and children to Baal because that's what it represents. That is what the Ark of Triumph represents, okay? And it is a connection and a gateway for the most part into the Temple of Baal. That's what it is. So September 19th, it will be in New York City. This has been confirmed from various sources, like I said, including the people who are behind the movement, the Digital Archaeology Institute, who they want to rave about it. Ooh, we have the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty, another satanic thing, the Statue of Liberty. Oh, the Brooklyn Bridge. And now we will have the Ark of Triumph, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, it sounds like fun. Triumph. It's triumphant, huh? Is it triumphant? No, it's not triumphant at all. Okay? Are you somebody who supports the sacrificing and the ritual killing of babies? I would hope you're not. Okay? The majority of people would say no, but I still guarantee you people will hear that and they'll go, oh, but where do we hear about that in the Bible? Oh, come on, these crazy Christians. I mean, respect other people's religions now. Oh, respect other people's religions, even though they still are sacrificing these babies openly at abortion clinics, and as well as, people who are born into covens whose parents sacrifice their children, women who allow themselves to get, have sex with these men and get pregnant just so that they can sacrifice these babies to Baal. Oh, don't worry about it. It makes me so sick to my stomach. I can't even take it anymore. It's so obvious. It's so blatant. It's so in our face, and they just get away with what they want. And then you hear little other stories come out. Oh, wait, what happened? Oh, well, a child in school, he was about, 7 years old. He was reading John 3:16 off a little note his mom left in his lunch bag. Oh, okay. Well, I respect his freedom. He's allowed to do that. Oh, no, no. He's not allowed to do that. What do you mean he's not allowed to? I mean, we have other religions doing what they want. Oh, no. Yeah, but he can't do that. No, so what happened? Oh, the police showed up armed at his front door, just to make the kid crap his pants to see a cop show up, holstering a gun because he read a Bible verse in school. But don't worry about it. We had the 10 Commandments in Oklahoma. What happened? Oh, somebody conveniently ran it down with a truck. Some Satanist conveniently ran it down. No cameras, no big deal, right? Oh, okay, it's broken now. I guess we won't build another one. We don't need that there. But guess what? We have the Baphomet statue all, floating around the United States. And now we even get this satanic arch that is going up in New York City, which represents sacrificing of children to Baal and Baal worship, which is pretty much what the United States of America is now based off of, which is satanic worship. It makes me sick. I can't even say give me a break because it's going to give me a heart attack. Absolutely ridiculous. This should be protested. People should be speaking out against this. If you have a channel, make videos. This is just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that they're allowed to do this. And we have to hear this crap about religious freedoms for everybody else. And even people out there who are atheists should be opposed to this. They should be saying, well, even though I'm an atheist and I don't believe in this stuff, if that thing represents the sacrificing of kids, I don't think it should be there either. Because there's no Christians going around going, well, we want the 10 Commandments. And what? Somebody's reading the 10 Commandments and going, oh, that's the worst thing I've ever read. There are laws to live by. Who could argue any of the 10 Commandments and say, oh, that's messed up. I don't agree with that commandment. If you do, there's something wrong with you in your head mentally. You're probably under demonic possession. But something like this, because we hear atheists and other people go, oh, wow, they have that gigantic replica of Noah's Ark built. Oh, it's ridiculous. Why are the Christians allowed to do that? Even though the guy bought the land and raised the money himself. Oh, they shouldn't be allowed to do stuff like that. But nobody comes out and goes, well, why are they allowed to resurrect this arch? Why are they allowed to do it? Oh, well, it's architecture. It's nice. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, do you know what it represents? What? It represents the sacrificing of kids. Do you care? Does anyone care? And the answer is just, well, they're not really doing it. Yes, they are really doing it, and they're still doing it. It has never stopped. So this is just more of them getting away what they want, turning this country into, well, this country's already about, satanic worship. That's pretty clear. Okay, God's laws are just getting thrown out in the United States of America. Okay, they're getting away with whatever they want. They're just ripping up the Bible. They're banning the Bible. They're censoring Christians. It's only going to get worse. And then they're bringing crap like this in. Instead of people going, well, I don't like what it represents, they go, oh, let them do it. They're not really going to kill babies and stuff like that. That's how naive these people are. They're so naive. They don't go, well, where are all these missing kids going that we hear about, all these statistics of kids going missing, even though there's a camera on every street corner and we're pretty much spied on around the clock. Oh, where are they going missing? I don't know. I guess they're getting sold to other countries so they can make shoes. Oh, is that where they're going? Oh, right. They're in Indonesia making shoes for Nike. I don't think so. These children are getting abducted. They're getting, prostituted out and ritually sacrificed. And this is what's going on. That, to me, that is what the arch represents. Okay, that's what it represents. I don't want to hear this crap about, well, it's not really the Temple of Baal arch. It's the arch, the Triumph arch. Okay, the Arch of Triumph. And, it was still connected to the Temple of Baal. But, let us get away with it by wording it that way so that we can make people like you a call for an uprising sound like an idiot, because we can go, it's not the Temple of Baal. It's the Triumph, the Arch of Triumph. Okay, they're connected to each other. That's the point. And this is how they get away with stuff like this. Because that's what they're going to say. And they're going to go, it doesn't represent that. It was just, the Romans erected this. And, it's a piece of beauty and art. And we should all admire it. Right. Give me a break. I thank you for listening to today's show. If I hear more information on this in the coming days or weeks, I will update you on it. I will leave the links to the articles below if you would like to read for yourself this disgusting disgrace known as the Arc of Triumph, which is now coming September 19th to New York City. Absolutely disgusting. Thank you for listening. God bless all of you and your families. God help us all.
Hello and welcome to another special edition of The World Beyond Belief. My name is Mindy Erkin and I'm here today with Paul Marco. We're going to talk today about Satanism in America.
Yes, it seems to be a hot topic, especially since they're reconstructing the Temple of Baal in Times Square. The Center for Digital Archaeology has decided to erect this blatantly satanic piece of architecture in order to do rituals in at least 3 cities throughout the world, and I guess it's planned for about 100 cities. The first city is our New York, London, and then there's a city in China where they're going to erect these things via 3D copying. I think it's really important that everybody notice that Baal is another name for Moloch, is another name for Lucifer, is another name for the hundreds of names that Satan has used down through the years. And this piece of archaeology used to bear witness to, in the ancient days, a human sacrifice. You see, what they do in the Temple of Baal is they do the same ritual that they do every year at the Bohemian Grove. They do the cremation of care ceremony, which is a ceremony that took place in the ancient world, I guess maybe once a year. And during that time, it would be preceded by a sexual orgy, all male, I guess, at Bohemian Grove. But it was dedicated to Isis, which is another name for the female incarnation of Satan. And after this orgy, then they would do the cremation of care ceremony. Now, in the cremation of care ceremonies, they would take young children, which were considered at that time a liability, actually, and they would sacrifice it in the fire to Moloch to ensure continued financial success. Now, since they're building these things, I thought that would be an important topic to discuss on The World Beyond Belief. And then this week, or it might have been last week, we discovered an article. Now, this article was posted in Veterans Today, and it's by Catherine Frisk. It's called "The United States of America is a Satanist Country." Let me read from that, and then we'll comment as we go through this thing. I think it's a really enlightening article. Some time ago, Putin described the U.S. as being Satanist. In Who's Godless Now, Russia says it's the U.S. Putin is quoted as saying, quote, "Many Euro-Atlantic countries have moved away from their roots, including Christian values. Policies have been pursued that place on the same level a multi-child family and a same-sex partnership, a faith in God and a belief in Satan. This is the path to degradation," end quote. All right, the article goes on. Most people in the West did not take him seriously. Also note that being godless in the eyes of Russians does not only apply to Christians. Russia has an enviable tolerance for all religions, and both Islam and Buddhism are neither maligned nor persecuted. Putin opened a new mosque in Moscow last year, and the head of the Russian armed forces is a Buddhist. He was not talking only of Christian values. Religious tolerance also means respect for other people's belief systems, and that does not include pussy riots on altars, chopping down crucifixes in churchyards, blowing up ancient Buddhist statues, or chopping off the heads of Shiite Muslims because they refuse to join the murderous Wahhabi Sunni faction. So before we laugh at Putin and his statement, agnostic, atheist, or whatever you may be, please understand that the point I am trying to get across is that you do not have to be religious at all. You do not even have to take sides. But if you look at the social, economic, and political outcome of those who follow Satanism, covertly or openly, the fruits of this psychological mindset become evident. If you're not religious, then at least ask yourself some serious questions about the society that you want to live in, and recognize that Satanists take themselves very seriously and are just as fanatical about getting converts as some religious orders are. The more converts they manage to sway to their cause, the more they can move a whole society into believing that their social, economic, and political dog-eat-dog worldview is the correct one. So to sum it up, lying and propaganda is considered an art form in order to achieve the desired results. 911 comes to mind. Truth is an anathema. Yeah, you can see what's happening, and it's happening all over the different society. I'm off the article right now. You can see how it's corrupting the children. You can see it in the music industry. You can see it in motion pictures. Now, of course, you know, the Bohemian Grove rituals that happen every year with for people in high places. The reverence for money above all, and the worship of the ego. We've done podcasts on the 4 tenets of Satanism and how that totally fits in with what's going on in our society. But continuing with the article, Mindy's going to read for a minute.
Architects and engineers for 9/11, truth murdering everyone and anyone who gets in the way is just all in a day's work. Michael Hastings, Breitbart, JFK, Martin Luther King. Another example is Madeleine Albright, who thought that it was worth it when 500,000 children died due to sanctions on Iraq. What is that? There is no respect for life. Many of these people, as part of their initiation, in order to be accepted into these societies, are expected to murder someone in cold blood, which could explain a lot of missing persons in the U.S. and cases that have never been solved. Sometimes they are even expected to sacrifice babies in rituals. Child abuse and pedophilia is part and parcel of the Satanist culture. In real terms, one of the few exposures was the Franklin scandal, where young boys were shipped into the White House for sex parties under the Bush administration. Homosexuality is promoted as the norm in society, not the exception. Opposing it as the norm does not mean that you are homophobic. Rather, this is a far cry from gay rights and tolerance for consenting adults. Here are some more recent examples of Satanism in American society. When Obama was running for president the first time, the rallying cry was, "Yes, we can." In reverse speech, this comes out as, "Thank you, Satan." Okay, let's just put that one down to a freaky anomaly. How about pro-abortion rallies where the demonstrators, not in reverse speech but in forward speech, are chanting, "Hail Satan"? I guess we could just put that one down to a fashion statement. Gone are the days of teaching family planning, birth control, and responsibility. For them, Life is meaningless, and murdering your own child is no more or no less than part of ablution. Flush the unwanted down the sewer. The 10 Commandments that were once proudly displayed in public places are now being removed. Other than the religious angle to these commandments, what do they say? Basically, do not lie, cheat, steal, murder, take your neighbor's possessions, and do leave your neighbor's wife alone. Nothing too difficult, really, for any society to understand or to use as a template for a harmonious political framework. What do we see today along with the 10 Commandments disappearing all over the place? Blatant false reporting in the media that sells itself off as an accurate source of information? Goldman Sachs et al. Cheating and robbing the world blind with LIBOR rate rigging, currency rate rigging, gold price manipulation, and high-frequency trading.
Yeah, they're the Satanists that are running this country follow Aleister Crowley. And Aleister Crowley's doctrine is, do what thou willst. Let that be the whole of the law. So when you're running under that morality, and we have been for a while, anything goes. And you can throw anything that interferes with that out the window. Let me continue with the article. Starts off with whistleblowers in many categories, instead of being praised for exposing corruption, are either suicided, that's a new word, by the way, suicided, or sentenced to long jail terms under rigged evidence. Color revolutions in order to replace the leaders in other countries with bought and paid for puppets who will make it easier to covet their possessions. Human trafficking, where women and children are sold off into the sex slave trade. Actually, I'm going to vary from the article a minute. Actually, that's the biggest growing illegal trade. It's surpassing the drug trade, illegal trafficking. And they do that for, of course, rituals. They do it for sex slavery. They're also doing it for organs. And we made a video on that not too long ago, about a month ago, on what they're doing with the people in the human trafficking. You might want to look at that. It's on Pinecone Utopia channel on YouTube. Back to the article. What replaces the 10 Commandments? Why, a statue of Satan, of course, erected in cities across the U.S. Satanism is no longer a fringe cult. Satanism has become part and parcel of American culture, fashion, and politics. And I remember thinking that back in the late 70s, early 80s, when Ozzy Osbourne was coming out, I was thinking, oh yeah, no, this is a trend, and people are going into this, and the new trend will take it away, but it hasn't taken it away. We've been doing satanic rituals in rock music since the 70s, and it's not just a fad. It's exactly what's happening. Let me go back to the article. Recently, Justice Scalia died from a heart attack. Yes, of course. Not only did he die under very suspicious circumstances that suggest that he was either murdered or that his death was faked, and he now lives somewhere in Patagonia under an alias, but the venue where his death took place and the subsequent reports in the media suggest that the Justice Department is now being run by Satanists.
But why should anyone be surprised by this? In recent years, there have been many exposures on the nature of Bohemian Grove, a yearly gathering of the top U.S. politicians, bankers, and leaders in industry, an all-boys club where gay prostitutes are flown in for entertainment, and the highlight of the proceedings is a midnight ceremony in front of the pagan god Moloch with chanting and the required human sacrifice burnt as an offering. If this is where the leaders and captains of industry and the presidents of the U.S. hang out for fun, surely it is blatantly obvious what religion is worshipped in the White House, the Congress, and the Senate. What pagan god runs Wall Street? We are not in Kansas anymore, Toto. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about voting these people into power year in and year out to govern your country? And what is more, mess around with every other country on the planet because they can, and they are. I recently got a wake-up call. Many people pass the above off as Hollywood fantasy or a conspiracy theory. I have a friend who watches the most ghastly murder movies, horror. For him, anything like Quentin Tarantino, for example, is comedy. I do not watch that stuff. A, I've no desire to make it normative in my universe. B, there is too much real stuff going on right in front of me to regard this genre's entertainment. But I happened to mention a mass grave found near Kiev full of bodies that had been dumped, missing their organs, that quite obviously had been removed to sell to the illegal organ trade business, and suddenly I am accused of promoting fear and terror? On the contrary, I and many others are exposing these criminals for who they are. He, on the other hand, is drowning himself in their culture. The trouble is, this criminality is coming to a venue near you soon if you do not wake up and do something about it. And it is real. It is not Hollywood. Yo, Quentin, want to put your talents to good use for a change? You want to be an atheist or an agnostic? That's fine by me. I am not trying to convert anyone to anything here. What I am trying to achieve is to make people aware of the real cultural base note that steers the U.S., and that they want to export it all over the world. Do not expect these people to stand up for human rights anywhere in the world. Human rights are counterproductive to their objectives, and they regard everyone not in their accepted social and political circles to be mere collateral. In fact, collateral damage is how they fob off any and all human right atrocities committed by them.
Right now in the United States, they're going through another sham of an election. And what they're doing is they're posing certain people against certain people to create a black and white division, liberal conservative, and Soros and the other Satanists are pouring massive amounts of money into disruption, violence. You can see it happening all over. You got to not buy into that deception. They're all Satanists. They couldn't, or else they're controlled by Satanists. I mean, it's really obvious in the United States. Let me go back to the article. Truth, honesty, justice for all, compassion, social responsibility, human rights, a Bill of Rights, a Constitution, all run counter to their program. In order to achieve their aims, they are corrupting societies across the globe, break down the family unit, break down national pride, destroy the educational system with Common Core, promote sexual promiscuity, deviance, pedophilia, abortion, a drug culture. Co-opt and corrupt political leader with bribes, set hybrid wars and color revolutions in place in all countries that are not towing the line, undermine and discredit the values and morals and teachings of all religions, and where possible turn believers into murderous, intolerant fanatics who go on genocidal missions. One of Hillary Clinton's emails, the ones it reads, quote, with fingers crossed, the old rabbit's foot out of the box in the attic. I will be sacrificing a chicken in the backyard to Moloch, unquote. This is Hillary Clinton. How can you be surprised by this when after Gaddafi was raped, sodomized, and murdered with a sword up the anus, that her response was, quote, we came, we saw, he died. Caligula had much the same mentality.
Who or what is Moloch? Moloch was another name for what we know in biblical texts as Baal worship. Matt Barber describes it. Quote, ritualistic Baal worship in sum looked a little like this. Adults would gather around the altar of Baal. Infants would then be burned alive as sacrificial offering to the deity. Amid horrific screams and the stench of charred human flesh, congregants, men and women alike, would engage in bisexual orgies. The ritual of convenience was intended to produce economic prosperity by prompting Baal to bring rain for the fertility of Mother Earth. The natural consequences of such behavior Pregnancy and childbirth and the associated financial burdens of unplanned parenthood were easily offset. One could either choose to engage in homosexual conduct or, with child sacrifice available on demand, could simply take part in another fertility ceremony to terminate the unwanted child. Modern liberalism deviates little from its ancient predecessor. While its macabre rituals have been sanitized with flowery and euphemistic terms of art, its core tenets and practices remain eerily similar. But that was long ago, right? How many of you saw Rosemary's Baby? A Clockwork Orange? Eyes Wide Shut? How many abortions are committed daily throughout the world? Have you been reading the news lately? The exposure of pedophile rings in the UK and Jimmy Savile? Roman Catholic priests all over the world sued for sexual child abuse? How many in the banking industry have gone flying off the 33rd floor and splattered onto the pavement below? How many people were burned to death in Odessa in 2014? And what about the pregnant woman who was raped and then strangled with a telephone cord? What about napalm and depleted uranium? How many people go missing in the U.S. today, most never to be seen again? What kind of music do you listen to, and what kind of movies do you watch? What kind of computer games do you play? What is the common theme in all of it? Stand back and take a good hard look at the society you live in and your part in it. Which wolf do you feed with your time and money? I'm not asking you to rush out and convert to anything. If you want to remain agnostic or even atheist, that is your choice. But what I am asking is this: what kind of world do you want to live in? A replica of the 50-foot arch that stood at the entrance to the Temple of Baal is going to be erected in April 2016 in Times Square in New York City. In ancient times, child sacrifice and bisexual orgies were common practices at the altars. Is anything much different in New York today? My friend, this is not a movie.
Again, that was an article by Catherine Fisk. I think it was a great article, and it was in Veterans Today. What I want you to think about is the general society in which we live in, and how the cultural Marxists employed by the Frankfurt School, Tavistock Institute, and many other organizations related to Committee of 300 have gradually orchestrated U.S. and Western culture to accept Satanism as a general tenet or a general way to behave. It's easy to look at if you know the four tenets of Satanism. Now, these have been woven into our societies, and as a baby boomer, I really have to take a lot of responsibility. My generation really moved this thing forward. Let's talk about those tenets and see if you can see them, see how they fit into society today. The first tenet is the worship of the ego. It's all about me, the me generation. It's my things, my money, and that's all that really counts. They trap you in the 5 sense reality where spiritual things outside of demons and of course Satan are not considered to be real. So we live in a society now that has really adopted and really has fallen into this me culture. It's all about me, and that's the first tenet of Satanism. The second tenet is moral relativity, or situational ethics. In this, you can throw out any right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. It's all what occurs to you right now. It might be right to me, but it's not right to you. What we've done is we've taken away any right and wrong. And we've left ourselves with this ambiguous kind of way to look at life. Well, yeah, if that's your idea, that's right in your society. And, if you look at something like gay marriage. Now, gay marriage, I'm all in favor of gay marriage. Whatever they want to do, I don't think that it should be called marriage because it interferes with the legitimate marriage between a man and a woman. But And society really needs the legitimate marriage between a man and a woman because it creates offspring and supposedly fosters good citizens for the future. Gay marriage doesn't do that. So although it's a nice idea and it's fine for people to do that, as far as I'm concerned, it certainly doesn't contribute to the society. So I think the discarding of right and wrong and some kind of a moral standard and behavior really has undermined the culture and allowed this do what thou wilt culture. It's right, whatever you do is right from your angle. It sounds like a cool idea, but it's really death for any culture that's adopting it. So that's the second tenet of Satanism. If everything you do is right, and it's all about the ego, that leads into the fourth tenet of Satanism, which is social Darwinism. Social Darwinism is, of course, the survival of the fittest, and in our case, the most ruthless. You can see who's surviving in our culture. The moralless, godless people that are finding their way into public office and heading up big corporations, and they're guided by these first three principles of Satanism. The only thing that counts is making money, and making money for me. I can do whatever I want, therefore I get ahead. So it's the survival of the most ruthless in our society, and that's the third tenet. The fourth tenet is eugenics. And you can see this creeping in even in the common level of society where they're thinking that people aren't as valuable. They're not a divine creation. They're simply something that can be harvested for their organs or can be subjected to torture if we need to do that, where aborted baby fetuses can be used to flavor soft drinks. I mean, we've really adopted the fourth tenet of Satanism, which is eugenics. The most ruthless, which have surfaced to the top of society, now determine who live and die. And believe me, those people, those most ruthless, are making a lot of money on human trafficking, human organs, sex slavery. It's getting to be a big growing industry. So I wanted to bring this to your attention. This temple of Baal that's being erected in your midst is just in harmony with where your culture is going. And if you want to stop it, you have to do something about it. You have to stand up and recognize it and do something that'll stop this onslaught and put us back into a moral culture, the moral culture from which we grew. Well, that's all we have to say today, and I'd like to wish you all a great week, and take care of yourself, and God bless.
Hey, and just one more thing I want to add. Do you think that this archway to the Temple of Baal could be a Stargate? Looks like it might be. Thanks for joining us. Take care.